Hi, my name is Lydia Anderson and I'm from Group 14 and I'm going to be presenting our project on Windows Books presentations. This PowerPoint was written by myself, Maddie Considine, and Rebecca Riddle. To begin, we need to talk about what is the significance of a Windows book. Well, a Windows book is a book that depicts a different culture or identity than the reader encompasses. For example, I'm a white female, so a good Windows book for me could be a book about an African American boy, or something that's completely different than some identity that I portray. These books allow for readers to understand different cultures and people around them, creating an idea that everyone is different, yet we all fit into this world. This would allow for better understanding of the world around us and allow for students to understand how everyone plays a role in the way our society acts. So it could really make a difference in the way that people treat each other. There's a danger in only introducing books that depict certain identities, like ones that you portray, and that is the danger of a single story. Single stories are dangerous because they could potentially lead to a lower self-confidence or an overinflated personality. Single stories only show one side of a story. So a single story could be only like understanding something that your family went through, but not understanding that other families could also go through this. So when there could be different interpretations depending on who is telling the story. If students only understand one culture, which is a culture that is their own, when faced with real-world decisions and actions, they may not know how to act. Students who are only shown one side of a story also could lack the ability to accept everyone because everyone is different and not one person is alike. It's kind of stereotypical, but it's the truth. So for our presentation, we decided that we are going to talk about Hispanic American literature. We thought a lot about cultures that, one, didn't mirror us, and two, that we wanted to learn more about. We only really see Hispanic American information during times of celebration, such as Cinco de Mayo and Dia de los Muertos. So we wanted to understand and learn more about the specific culture, especially since a lot of our friends are this culture, and we predict that we may encounter this culture a lot as we go through our future teaching endeavors because 2 out of the 3 of us are doing English as a second language as an endorsement. So we're going to be talking about the books that we brought into class, and so we brought in books that were Hispanic American literature, and we got them at Parks Library and the Ames Public Library. The first book that we got is called Chato's Kitchen by Gary Soto and illustrated by Susan Guevara. So we'll read a little bit of a summary. Chato, the main character, is the main cat leader of a gang in the group, and him and his friend Novio are planning a dinner for a friend, the mouse who just moved next door. The story takes place in Los Angeles, in a neighborhood where it's very Hispanic populated. The mouse is so excited that he brings his friend Chorizo to dinner, which upsets Chato because he is scared of the mouse's friend. They just wanted to have a typical dinner with quesadillas and rice. However, Chato is too chicken to say something. Although he's a tough guy, the story goes on with the characters in the kitchen figuring out how to make the best meal possible, and in the end, they actually do so. So the illustrations in this book are very realistic. It feels like you're seeing cats who actually live in a city, and they wear clothes and they have hats and they have lots of primary colors, and it's depicted through brushstroke paint and lots of shading and different patterns. This book clearly depicts Hispanic culture through the differences in the neighborhood it takes place in, the language, it's spoken in English and Spanish throughout, and the meal that is shared in the story. The author does a stellar job of putting traditions such as tamales in the story to bring the culture to life. And we believe that Chato's Kitchen was written from an insider perspective because it depicts typical foods and things that often occur in an Hispanic American home. So the next book that we're going to talk about is Mango, Abuela, and Me, written by Meg Medina, illustrated by Angelina Dominguez. Mia's abuela, her grandma, comes to visit her in the city. At bedtime, Mia sits down with her grandma to read a book. She quickly realizes that her abuela isn't able to read the words on the pages. Throughout the visit, Mia learns Spanish and teaches her grandma some English. So they're definitely relating to each other through their native languages, which definitely depicts a Hispanic American perspective, especially those who are generational because they are oftentimes bilingual. It's written from an insider's perspective by an author from Cuba who experienced this Hispanic culture. It accurately represents the Hispanic culture. One of the main characters speaks Spanish and is trying to learn English. Also shows different traditions and certain foods. Spanish songs are also mentioned. The illustrator, Angela Dominguez, used ink, gouache, marker, and a lot of digital techniques to make it very realistic. The next book is Too Many Tamales by Gary Soto, sorry, illustrated by Ed Martinez. Maria and her mother are making tamales for Christmas. While they are cooking, Maria tries on her mother's wedding ring. Later, when Maria is hanging out with her cousins, she realizes that she never gave the ring back to her mother. Her cousins and her go on a mission to find the ring, which results in eating all of the tamales. Maria goes to confess to her mother and realizes that the ring is on her finger. Finally, the whole family laughs and works together to make tamales. The story is written about a Hispanic home during the holidays. In the story, the illustrations are very realistic and seem to be painted, as you can see in the picture. It looks like it was a snapshot taken. There are many details in each illustration that gives the reader more of a sense about the storyline. So the illustrations definitely add to what's being talked about. The story accurately represents a Hispanic American family through the description of the process of making tamales, which is a huge deal for Hispanic Americans. The author uses some language that is specific to this culture, also represents Hispanic American family by illustrating what Christmas looks like for this type of culture. Our fourth book is Friends from the Other Side, or Amigos del Otro Lado, by Gloria Anzaladua, sorry if I butchered that, illustrated by Consuelo Mendez. The protagonist is a young girl named Prietia. She meets a boy named Joaquin who is selling fireworks. She realizes he speaks different Spanish than her. They begin to discuss that they're from different parts, and they were telling him he was nasty and that he needs to go back to his side. At the end of the book, immigration patrol comes to town and Joaquin and his family hide in fear. They are thankfully safe. The book was written from an insider's perspective, living on the other side of the river. And I forgot to mention that Too Many Tamales was written from an insider's perspective because it gives insight about a traditional Hispanic American. We'll go back to the next book, but I just didn't want to miss that in our presentation. The illustrations definitely depict and add to the story. As you can see, that the kid had bruises and scars, and you can definitely tell differences in old life back in Mexico and new life here where they are now. This book was written by an insider's perspective, and yeah, it looks like it could be a very good book for young kids because it's written in Spanish and English. And our last book is called Family Pictures, Cuadros de Familia. It's written by Carmen Lomas Garza and illustrated by Carmen Lomas Garza, so the same person. Garza, the author, shares what her life was like when she was a little girl. On each page, she describes a significant or meaning life. So basically, the book talks about her lifestyle, different traditions, and things that she went through as a Hispanic American young girl, leading up to where she is now as an author. It takes place in Kingsville, Texas, which is a highly populated area for these Hispanic Americans. The illustration and the story are very detailed and represent a specific event that is being described on the page. And it's written from an insider's perspective since the author writes specifically about her experiences in her life. And so all 5 of those books we think truly depict Hispanic American culture. So if someone was a Hispanic American, it could totally mirror them and what they go through on an everyday basis. However, for us 3, it definitely is window books because none of us experience that. We all speak English. We all definitely are not Hispanic culture, which I think is such a cool culture, and I want to learn more about it. And I know that Maddie and Rebecca also would like to learn more about it, which is why we picked those books. So finding books was not difficult. Parks Library and Ames Public Library actually had sections dedicated, so it was really easy to pick books that we thought looked interesting. We also referenced the top 10 Hispanic American books that was pointed out to me by a first grade teacher that I work with. In these books, there was actually a lot of stereotyping. It was depicted that Hispanic Americans only eat quesadillas, beans, tamales, that they live in rundown neighborhoods, which is not always the case. And it seemed like there was a theme in these books that they're always running from immigration, which I think is kind of rude. That's not the case. Hispanic Americans are great people. They're definitely make an impact on the society we live in, and without them, we wouldn't be the world we are today. And so they're so important, and it's so important to learn about them. Three major points to share are: it is very important to be open-minded about other cultures. So if I wouldn't have looked at these books, I maybe would have a different idea on Hispanic American culture, and now I understand how they're depicted, and I want to do something about that. Don't judge a book by its cover. So just because someone looks a certain way doesn't mean that they act that way. And it's important to teach young kids that's okay to come from different backgrounds. It's what makes you unique. I feel like so many times we act like that someone needs to be a specific race or a specific look. And ultimately, what makes you you is the unique things about you, like how you look and where you come from. And so I feel like in schools, we especially need to start focusing on that. I know that us three are going to definitely dedicate our future teaching um, styles to making sure that people understand that they are important no matter where they come from. And so now you learned a little bit about what Windows books are, some examples of some Windows books in Hispanic American literature, and just some basic understanding of stereotyping and that everyone is unique, but everyone also has a place in this world, and each place is just as important as everyone else. So everyone is so important, and it's so good to learn about other cultures. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed our presentation. Here's a works cited page where we got all our books. They're listed there, and where we got the photos. So I'll leave it there for a little bit just so I can see. But other than that, we definitely recommend that people research into Hispanic American culture because we found out some really cool things that none of us knew about. So thank you.